Greetings, everyone. It's me again. It's Uriah Young from the Philadelphia Writers Conference. Today we have a special guest, and she is an author, and she's a registered nurse from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I'm on the line for Skyping, the Skype session, with none other than Nina McKissock. How you doing, Nina?
I'm very well, Uriah. How are you doing? It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you again as well. The last
Thank
time
you.
we saw each other, we were at the Doylestown bookstore, and you were doing a reading of your book, From Sun to Sun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm living in Philadelphia now.
It was good to see you, and also there were so many people that came out to see your book reading. I got a chance to meet some of your neighbors and some of your coworkers and friends, and I hope that you share this video with them, and so they can see what's going on with you currently.
Thank you. I will. I will. Thank you. Yep.
All right, so let's introduce a little bit of your background, Nina, because some people may not have heard of you as of yet, but after they read your book, they're definitely going to be coming back for more of you. Nina McKissock has been a registered nurse for some time. Along the way, she's worked with the National Cancer Institute in Frederick, Maryland, Hahnemann University Hospital in Philadelphia, and eventually you became the founder and executive director of Serenity House and Hospice Support, which is in Doylestown. And today, your book, Sun to Sun, which probably couldn't have been written without all those memorable experiences. You probably couldn't have written that book if not for this prolonged and great career that you had. So, did I nail it? Did I get it all?
That's enough. Look at me. I'm not young, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of history,
I
of
didn't
course.
want to throw any years out there. I just said that you've been a registered nurse for quite some time, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just took that route. So let's get to your book. I looked on Amazon, and obviously I read parts of your book. It's doing pretty good. You got many five-star ratings.
Mhm.
And for people who don't know, your book really takes the reader through the lives of some of the people that you worked with as a hospice nurse, and talk about profound, talk about touching of the heart. I told you before we officially got on the line that when I read about Ken, we'll elaborate that on later, it really touched my heart. So my question to you is, what made you write such a book, a memoir of that experience as a hospice nurse?
Mhm. I We were in the middle of raising three children, and we were in the madness of schlepping and all the obligations and responsibilities to coaches and teachers and the community. And meanwhile, I was doing this very sacred work, accompanying people and getting them through their death. And the contrast of the madness and then the quiet, and I realized that wherever anybody puts their attention and their heart is how they're going to leave this world. So there was one Thanksgiving where there were 22 people at the table. It was magnificent, and I just started sobbing and said, I just want everyone to not rush this. Do you realize how sacred this is? So it's really hard to talk with people. People usually really literally put their fingers in their ears, and in the United States, and walk away. They're like, no, it's too sad, please, please. And then they say something like, you're an angel. I'm like, I don't want to hear this. This is not why I'm saying it. So I decided that my children, I wanted to make a record of what I did when I wasn't home. And I had this handheld dictaphone I took in the car, and these micro cassettes, and I just started recording like ideas my thoughts on what is love, what are families, what is forgiveness, why are we here, how do people go, what is this continuum? So I ended up moving 6 years ago to Philadelphia, and I found all these micro cassette tapes in Ziploc bags, and I had them transcribed. And then I said, okay, I'm going to transcribe them. And came out to be about 46 stories, patient stories. And then I started, molding them and cleaning them up. And then I put them in a spiral bound copy and got three of them, and going to give them to my attorney to give to my children after I died. But my girlfriend grabbed one, and her husband is the first literary agent for James Patterson, and he said, "This is not my genre, and it's rough." He said, "But I'm going to send it to my friend Priscilla Turner, who has written 3 books on editing." And Priscilla got it, and then she was so touched by the stories, but she said I needed to figure out, how to clean them up. And then she gave them to a literary agent, Deborah Schneider, who told me that I have to go back and write more about myself and get it down to like 20 stories, because the reader will only fall in love and grow to understand the patients if they understood you. So I went back for another 8 months of just adding, and forming. And I also hired an editor just to keep me in the right tense. I have a little issue with going in and out of tenses. And also cleaning it up, almost just keeping it tighter. So that was wonderful. That was 18 months. And so then it went out. It was launched out into the world after that.
Wow. So
yeah.
going back to all of your experiences and all of your patients and having the foresight to want to archive this and put it in something so that your children could kind of get an idea what mom was like, in her position as someone so important as a hospice caregiver. My question to you next, Nina, has to do with the idea of the emotional investment that you put into this. I'm sure it brought back some pretty tough memories because you bonded with a lot of your patients, and it's a tough situation. So my question to you is, what was that like for you, going through that, all those stories and going back in time?
hmm Thank you. You have to have a really good life outside of your work, any kind of work you do. And instead of being sad or furious, sometimes you get really frustrated with families. It's like, you have to realize the humanity and also how you can learn from them. If you're spending too much time, doing X, Y, Z, and it's just not important because that's not going to move the ball forward with the quality of your life, and you learn from them. I look at them as being my teachers. Yes, I cry, and sometimes I'm the first person in the room crying. So especially I don't know, with some certain people you bond with, as being a teacher and everything, that there's some people just like you just bond with more and identify with more. So I think it's important for me to have a really wonderful life outside of the work that I did.
It's so moving to me that you had to narrow it down. The editors, you have to trim things down so that it's not overwhelming for the reader in the form of a book. So 21 stories, people who you connected with on a personal level, people that you took care of physically, literally took care of them toward the end of their lives. Was there a 22nd or a close 23rd? Was there someone who didn't quite make the book,
It
unfortunately?
did make the cut.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, in one of the chapters, I think it's titled "Freddie and Others." It I mentioned a bunch of patients I had, and there's one that I almost included, but it was a little controversial. I was He was a young man. He was about 40, 45, and he wasn't admitted to the priesthood because he couldn't pass the intellectual tests. So he translated that as being, "God doesn't like me, I'm going to hell." So we get him as he's dying,
Yeah.
and then we had a really rough time with him, and he had a really bad experience at the end because he could not get out of his story in his head. And I was going to put that in there, but the powers that be said, "Don't do it. You're because my book is not religious,
Hmm.
and I do question a lot about religiosity and
Okay.
evangelism in the book."
Well, I'm glad that the gentleman named Ken did make the
Oh,
book. I know that's not his real name, but
no, that is his real name.
oh, it is his real. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he was
That's
one of the people. He was one of the people who wanted me to keep his name.
okay. So Ken is a real person. Ken was a real
Yep.
person, and his name still rings out. We're talking about him right now, and you took me through his life and how you met him and how you connected with his son, and how initially he seemed just kind of cold and distant, but then he opened up when he heard your name. And the subsequent chapter, after you talk about Ken's life and the love of his life, it kind of goes, you tie it into the reason why he was so enamored with your name. And that story really touched me. It took me around the world, mostly through Europe, and then you brought it back to his story about how he was living in Pennsylvania as a gas pipe worker, and you just really shed a light on this man's life. And a question I wanted to ask that I forgot to include earlier is, what is the response from some of the family members, knowing that you've kept their family members' name and just their spirit alive through your book? What's their response to this?
Well, the ones where got permission to use their name
Hmm.
were the toughest ones to write,
Hmm.
because here you have the families go through their editing process, and then they're writing from someone who died and they want to memorialize, and I'm doing it from my relationship with them, which is temporary and brief
Hmm.
as a nurse. So I kept telling them, they said, "Oh, why did you portray him this way?" I said, "Because that's what I knew him as."
Right.
But I didn't. So it was very, very. They were the most challenging chapters. They really were. And Ken, wow, his life as a ballet dancer with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo, and then his being reunited with this woman, Nina, that he had been in love with when he was 19, and they saw each other again and got married immediately.
That was
Yeah, it was
amazing.
very sweet.
That
Yeah, and
was
they had
amazing.
boxes and boxes and boxes of letters they wrote to each other
Yeah.
every day, even when they were married.
Yeah.
And
Bumping
yeah, it was
bumping into
very
the
sweet.
neighbor on the train in
Isn't that
Brooklyn,
wild?
of
I
all
know.
situations,
I
that
know.
was meant to be.
Isn't
That
that
was meant to
funny?
be. It was sort of a great love story that I really, it'll stay with me for a while. My
Great love
next
story.
question, Nina, is about the promotion of your book, because I know I saw you at the Doylestown bookstore promoting the book, and it's been a while since I've seen you. But what's it been like promoting this book? Have you been doing any events? What's it been like promoting From Sun to Sun?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's anyone who's writing has to first of all, you have to realize you have to protect yourself all the time. You
Hmm.
have to don't get all enamored if someone says they're an agent. They have to be a good agent. The social media bubble is over. Don't get all, you might say 50 to 100, sell 50 to 100 books with your Facebook page or this and that or your blogs, but you have to get someone who's an excellent agent or an excellent editor, and also have all the contracts written. You have a lot to do with your own marketing as
Hmm.
far, but they have to set it up. It's a team. It's a team, and I took 4 months, and I taught in Colorado, and then I was in California for a while at wonderful bookstores, and one's around here, and it's been quite in Seattle and Portland, Oregon, but they've in Denver. They're fantastic. It's every audience is different too.
Yeah. There's a lot
So
of moving parts with the process of getting published. I know it's not easy, and to know that your journey is taking you to Colorado and California and back over here, I'm sure that you are just embracing everything, and along
mhm.
the way, I'm sure you're happy with the sales. I'm sure it's doing pretty good in that aspect. Let's get to the conference that you attended a couple of years ago, the
Mhm.
Philadelphia Writers Conference.
Mhm.
Uh, I remember sitting with you in the restaurant, and you were really excited over something you had sat down and talked to. Maybe it was an agent, and you were networking with different people. Tell us if someone hasn't been to the Philadelphia Writers Conference, what did you benefit from that experience?
Oh, there was a romance writer, Jen Terrell, someone, but I loved her classes because
Mhm.
she talked about character development, structure, the rules of it, and the questions you ask yourself as you were writing these characters. And she was fantastic. It was. very serious artistry and skill. And it's nice you have the more extemporaneous things like the writing wall or something, the wall, and
The
then
contest, yeah.
and then you have also someone who did screenwriting. So it's nice to hear. And the gentleman who spoke in the opening was great. I think he started out talking about Moby Dick or something. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Bill
yeah.
Lashner, I think that's who it was.
Oh,
Bill
okay.
Lashner, yeah.
He was wonderful. So it was a nice variety of people.
Yeah,
I
you get to
enjoyed
make
that.
friends and catch up with friends.
Yeah,
It was that was a good
nice.
year. I distinctly remember some
Hmm.
of the things that you mentioned.
Hmm.
So we're coming toward the end of the Skype session, and my last question is, what is coming up next for you? Clue us in.
Oh, I took the last chapter of the book, From Sun to Sun, about Everett Banks, and I'm writing a work of fiction based on his life.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's been a lot of research on World War II, and a lot of it's going to take place over 3 days in a battle.
How many words are you thinking? Are you shooting for 80,000 or
Well,
90,000?
fiction, and it's war fiction. We know there's like 80 genres. Uh, I'm going to shoot for about 103,000. We'll
Oh
see.
wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's definitely it's going to be involved a lot of history. I mean, if you're going to have it about a war, you definitely need to do your homework. So,
yeah,
I wish
yeah.
you the best with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Nina, it was great catching up with you again. You look
Thank you,
great, you
Uriah.
sound great,
Thank
and
you. Thank you very much.
I wish you the
Nice to
best
see
of luck.
you.
The best of luck with From Sun to Sun continuing to go out and promote, and of course the new project. It's great seeing you. Thanks for being on the Skype session.
Thank you, Uriah. Take care now.
All right, and
Bye.
with that, I have to promote the Philadelphia Writers Conference, which is
Hmm.
coming up in just a few weeks. You can still register. The
Hmm.
date of the conference is June 9th, 10th, and the 11th. It is in historic Philadelphia in downtown section. And if you're looking to network with people in the industry, the writing industry, if you're looking to take some master classes and to sharpen those writing skills, this is the place you need to be.
Hmm.
Nina McKissock's been there. I've been there.
Hmm.
We need to see you down there. I hope to see you down there. You can register at www.pwcwriters.org. With Nina McKissock, this is Uriah Young. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.